Good morning. Welcome to the 49ers Morning After Show with your host, Cohn and Ryan Hensley. Niners just won a game. They just beat the Los Angeles Rams, and now it's time to ask if we need to forget everything we thought we knew about the 49ers. We're going to go systematically through the roster, and there are some things that I'm definitely changing my opinion about. I'm not going to tell you what yet. You'll have to wait and see. Starting with the whole team. The whole team, they were 3-4 on a 2-game losing streak, 2 back-to-back blowouts, essentially. Losses by double digits. It was looking bad. And then the Rams come through and make the Niners feel good about themselves again, like the Rams really always do. And now I want to know, has your opinion of the Niners changed?
I mean, yes and no. Mostly no. I mean, here's the thing is like the 49ers have beat the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Panthers. The Rams twice. Those are the 3 teams that they beat. They have 4 wins. The Rams don't look like a good team. They don't look like the same team that won the Super Bowl last year at all. They lost a lot of really good players. Matt Stafford looks different. So, and Kyle Shanahan has shown,
They look like a bad team, actually, the Rams. They look like one of the worst teams in the NFC.
They look really bad, especially offensively. I mean, and defensively. They just look bad all around.
They can't tackle and they can't block. Other than that, they're a really sound team.
They got one good weapon, which is Cooper Kupp. Beyond that, what do they have?
Yeah, nothing.
So they're not. A lot of people are like, "Oh, that's a Super Bowl team from last year," but
it's a shell of a Super Bowl team. Them and the Panthers are 2 of the worst teams in the league. Yes. And the Niners, that's 75% of the Niners wins.
Yes.
The other win is over the Seahawks, which is interesting because they're actually a good team. Well, they look good.
They look good. On paper, they look good. And, they're riding, the wave right now. We'll see how it plays out for them. The good thing about the Seahawks is they're putting up points more than the 49ers are, but their defense is really, really bad. So I'm not, decided on the Seahawks whether those guys are legit or not yet. So I don't know. I'm still out on that. What do you think about the Seahawks?
Well, we're gonna come to the Seahawks. I want to stick with the Niners for a second because it feels like just the way the last 2 weeks happened and the way this win happened with Christian McCaffrey going crazy. A lot of Niner fans are saying like, man, I saw Ryan Clark. He's not even a Niner fan saying the Niners and the Eagles are the teams to beat in the NFC. Like that may be, but if you only came to that conclusion because of the latest win over the Rams, I got to question how closely you're looking at this team because just a month ago, the Niners beat the Rams by 15 and now they beat them by 17. The Rams suck. So I feel like the Niners, we're 2 months in and they haven't really been tested. The one test they got, they failed. Now they did beat the Seahawks, but that was week 2 and the Seahawks have won 3 in a row. Now they seem to be improving. I'm not going to change my opinion. I'm open to changing my opinion about the Niners. But not after they beat the Rams. I mean, the Rams suck and the Niners own them.
Yeah, I mean, and then look at the teams they lost to. Outside of the Chiefs, they lost to the Bears, the Broncos, and the Falcons. And the Bears and the Broncos are horrible.
Right.
And they lost to them. And the Falcons are horrible. Like you said, they've really played one legit playoff team this year, maybe. I don't know, which is the Chiefs, and they did horrible.
Lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you look at the rest of the schedule for the season. They're not playing too many Super Bowl contenders or playoff caliber teams. So it's going to be crazy because the regular season schedule ended up. We all thought it was pretty tough going into the season, but it looks like it's pretty easy. And so if they do make the playoffs, which they probably should, they're going to be facing the toughest competition they faced all year in the playoffs.
Yeah. I just want to point out the Rams and the Panthers have combined for 7 double-digit losses this season. So those teams are, when they lose, they're really bad. They'll just, And so I guess, we got to see more from the 49ers. It felt good. I mean, I feel like it was a very cathartic experience. It got rid of it was a blowout win after 2 blowout losses. McCaffrey looked good, and Niner fans can go back to fantasy mode, which is, man, imagine when Deebo comes back and Jimmy Garoppolo gets better and Kyle gets better and the offensive line. Like you can get back to how great is this team going to be? Yeah. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
It would also help if they could play the Rams every time.
Right. And I think they have a lot of good pieces coming back after the bye week. A lot of people are coming back. And so that's great. My concern with the 49ers, why I'm cautiously optimistic and I'm hopeful, but it is two reasons. It's Jimmy and Kyle. Those are the reasons why I'm a little hesitant to say my opinions have changed with the 49ers. Those have been my two biggest doubts all year. It's not the defense. It's not the talent on offense. It's not the weapons. And, CMC he is a difference maker. And so, that does give me a little bit more confidence, but we still have Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. And despite his amazing game yesterday, he has shown in the past that he can be, he's average at best. Yesterday, he had a great game. I'd give him an A. I think you gave him an A. But we've seen him have some D games and some F games and usually around C games. So I don't know. The question is Jimmy overall a better player now? I don't know. I'm not sure. Has Kyle learned from his mistakes in the past? I'm not convinced of that part yet either. So
yeah. Drees415 says, you tell him, Grant. Love the show, dog. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. See, Turley says, I'm on my flight from LAX right now. Hope you make it back. Okay, Grant. I did make it back. Hope you make it back okay. Gonna start creating content. Would love to collaborate. All right, man. Let's talk about it. I got a lot on my plate right now, but I'm sure we could work something out. Trade for Isaiah Wynn. I don't think the Niners can make any more trades. They have no more picks.
That's the right tackle, right?
Yeah, but maybe they should because Mike McGlinchey's the worst player in the team. But we don't need to talk about Mike McGlinchey right now. We all kind of agree, I think, about that. You alluded to it a minute ago. Jimmy Garoppolo. Has your opinion of Jimmy Garoppolo changed? I mean, he did just have a really good game against the Rams, and he has a new weapon who he seems to, their skill sets kind of align.
No, my opinion hasn't changed with Jimmy. Amazing game, good game for him. Having CMC is huge. It's a great crutch for Jimmy. And then you get Deebo back. I mean, he has a ton of weapons. He might have the best weapons in the NFL, honestly, what I'm thinking about. I don't know. Maybe there are other teams, but the 49ers have the best offensive weapons. George Kittle, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, and now Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if I'm missing someone else. Juice, maybe. Ross Dwelly. But honestly, he has the best weapons in the NFL. And so he's going to have games where he looks good. But Jimmy hasn't really changed. What I like is that he's taking deep shots. Now, his deep passes look the same as they always have, a little short, except for in the Super Bowl, right? All his passes seem to be really short. Ray McCloud, he would have had a touchdown. I think Trey Lance has a touchdown there. Obviously, that's speculation. And then, Ramsey touched the ball twice. Could have been interceptions. I don't think he's changed. I think he had a great game, a little bit of luck, but overall, really good job by Jimmy yesterday. But, we've seen the cycle. They post on Twitter and how it evolves with Jimmy. He has a really good game. We get excited and against a bad team, and then, the inevitable happens. So as a fan, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but, history kind of tells us the future.
Yeah, he did throw the pass to Ramsey yesterday, and Ramsey dropped it. He always throws one to the other team. You just got to catch it, or you drop it. They dropped it. No, Jimmy Garoppolo. It was a nice effort, but it's he's done it to the Rams a million times, and there's a reason he can do it to the Rams. Most teams will take away that short passing game from Jimmy Garoppolo eventually. Good teams. And the Rams just don't. I guess they're built to make you dink and dunk, and they can be beaten by a horizontal passing game. They can't tackle. Their DBs cannot tackle. I mean, they can't tackle Deebo. They can't tackle McCaffrey. Once one of the Niners guys gets in the open field, they're screwed. So this is a good matchup for Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, and he faced the one offense that's frankly worse than his.
He had two. I think the pass to Christian McCaffrey was really good in the end zone, but I think Nick Bosa said he doesn't even know if that was to Christian McCaffrey. It could have been to, I think there was Kittle in the back corner also. I don't know.
Two guys open.
Yeah,
two guys open.
Right, and then Kittle, the pass to Kittle in the back of the end zone was really nice. The last touchdown to Kittle. But, most of his passes were pretty simple, pretty easy, short, outside stuff. So, no, I don't have a different opinion of Jimmy Garoppolo. I do think, seeing him for so long and how he's handled all the adversity, all the criticism, I do respect Jimmy Garoppolo as a person. I think he's a really good dude, good person, but he's just kind of like an average quarterback, and he's going to have bad games. He's going to have good games. And, there's a little bit of luck involved. I think sometimes as sports analysts, we are so quick to, like the Warriors could lose a game by a point, or any team. They could lose by a point, and all of a sudden they're horrible. They can win by a point, and they're amazing. It's kind of like what I see with Jimmy. If that ball's intercepted, he could have had a couple balls intercepted, honestly. The one that was short to Ray could have been intercepted.
Yeah, that wasn't a great throw. Yeah.
So if those are intercepted, it's a different ball game. So it's a little bit of luck, but that doesn't mean he's awful. Doesn't mean he's horrible. It just means he's Jimmy Garoppolo.
I thought he had a really good game, even though there were a couple things that could have been intercepted. Like, okay, that's for most quarterbacks. He really did play a very efficient game, and so I gave him an A. But it's just one game. Does this one excellent performance against the Rams mean that he's suddenly going to be a good quarterback in the playoffs? Maybe. He might be a good quarterback in the playoffs this year, but I'm not going to say now because I saw this yesterday. That's not an indication of that. And Colin Cowherd's probably going to go on his show today and gloat about Jimmy Garoppolo being back and all this stuff. It's yeah, okay, but he's done this so many times before. Not that it's any less impressive, but for whatever reason, it's just like styles make fights.
Yeah,
the Rams are made to order for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, hats off to him, man. Great game. I don't want to criticize him too much, but have I changed my opinion of him? No. And, I'm a big believer in statistics. We have 6 years of statistics on Jimmy Garoppolo. So, we see where he's at. If it evens out to the numbers that we've seen from him in the past, which it probably will, that means there's some bad games ahead as well. So just kind of temper your expectations.
It felt like he was a week. If he lost this game to the Rams and he was a big reason they lost, it felt like he was going to lose the confidence of his own locker room. Last week after the Chiefs game, you had Brandon Aiyuk and George Kittle both being like, I don't know why this offense isn't delivering. We have the playmakers. And the question was, are they talking about Jimmy or Kyle? And maybe they were talking about both. But the way Jimmy played in this game, maybe he thought they were talking about him, and he stepped up.
Yeah,
he stepped up.
He bought himself at least a couple weeks, But I don't think a lot of players were happy with him. If I had to guess, I don't know, but if I had to guess, I would say Brandon Aiyuk wasn't big on Jimmy coming in this game. And if I had to make another guess, just based on some body language I saw earlier in the season, I think Danny Gray is definitely a Trey guy. I saw some pretty funky body language from Danny Gray in the beginning of the season when Jimmy came in. So, obviously I'm just speculating. I have no idea who's pro Jimmy and who's not. But I think he bought himself a couple weeks. But I think he was on the hot seat based on some people I talked to. There was some stuff going on inside that locker room.
Interesting. It seems like it was hard to be pro Jimmy after those two losses. And it seemed like even his biggest supporters and defenders in that locker room were starting to be like, man, there's nothing I can say. There's no more excuses there's no more excuses. And so Jimmy Garoppolo needed this performance. It was clutch, timely. They won. Does it mean that he's going to look good against the Chargers? I don't know, man. He's looked bad against Atlanta. This is a guy who's twice done the hat trick this year, the bad hat trick, which is the interception, the fumble, and the safety.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It'd be great. It may be an amazing story if Jimmy Garoppolo plays well for the rest of the season and into the postseason. But history says he's going to have some bad games. History says he's not going to do well in the playoffs. And, when the 49ers do make the playoffs, they're going to be playing the best teams that they've played all year outside of the Chiefs. So it's going to be a challenge for him. We'll see. A root for the guy. I think CMC is a big crutch for him and might help him out.
Well, last year, the way it worked is he kind of struggled the first half of the year, almost got benched for Trey Lance, and then I was in Chicago. It was right before Halloween, and he won. And he scored those touchdowns, and they scored 30 points, and he went on a run. His birthday's November 2nd, I think. So last year he went on a run from Halloween to Christmas. Remember? It all came crashing down. He's like Cinderella. Midnight is Christmas for him. And in Tennessee, it just all went bad. He had been so hot. He beat the Bengals. And then I don't know, maybe that's his thing. Like he's really good from Halloween to Christmas, and then it all falls apart. Takes him a while to get going, gets hot, and then when it's really like pressure time, he's like, "Oof, I'm a pumpkin."
Yeah, hopefully, man. Hopefully he stays healthy. I think What's the most games he's played in the season? 15?
I think
15
so.
is the most, right?
No. He did not miss a game in 2019.
Okay. You
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah. Nick
16?
Mullins never played a game. I know this because me and Jimmy Garoppolo are like best friends now. He shouted me out yesterday in the press conference, so
Yeah.
I have to defend his honor at every turn now. No,
I saw that. By the way, your recap last night, that was
thanks.
amazing. I love those. Man, your recaps after the games are the best. Whether they win or lose, I'm still excited to watch your recaps. And that last night was prime elite Grant Cohn performance.
Thanks. I know everyone was expecting me to like poop on the performance. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna take credit for it. So thanks, guys. Anthony.
Yeah.
Anthony Adams says, any chance we can scrap the wide 9 versus mobile quarterbacks? I feel like that's the missing piece for us to be an elite defense, specifying our schemes. I actually think there's a lot to that. Why is the Niners defense susceptible to mobile quarterbacks? Well, you've widened the scramble lanes by alignment, and you tell these defensive ends and defensive linemen altogether, just rush to a spot. Forget reading and reacting. Rush to a spot, and you spread them out. Like, how could you make it any easier for a quarterback to scramble if he can scramble?
Yeah, and especially with the with the option, what I'm seeing is there's a trend. I could be wrong. Maybe this has been happening for a long time, but I really picked up on it myself personally this year. I'm watching guys that are defending the option really well. What they're doing is they're coming at the running back, so the quarterback keeps it, and then they're coming inside. They're like fake going at the running back, and then the quarterback keeps it, and they're coming inside. And when I watch teams that do that, it's really effective. And so I'm not really a huge fan of the option. It's something that high school teams and college teams have been doing it forever, but the NFL is really good at adjusting. And I don't know how effective that's going to be long term. And hoping Kyle Shanahan doesn't just rely on that so heavy if Trey Lance comes back next year.
Yeah, agree. Kevin says trade Elijah for OLM. Who's OLM?
I don't know.
I don't know who OLM is.
I wouldn't trade Elijah.
Nah, they should probably have as many running backs as they can get. Was happy for BA, so much potential, spread the ball. Yeah, let's talk about Brandon Aiyuk. Has your opinion of Brandon Aiyuk changed? Not just because of this one game against the Rams, but because of maybe the last few weeks.
No, I mean, maybe some people's opinions of him has changed, but I predicted during the year that Brandon Aiyuk was going to be the leading receiver on the 49ers. I said that before the year. I still think it's happening. I think he is right now. I think he's trending that way. I think he's still underutilized, underrated, league wide. Brandon Aiyuk is a really good wide receiver. We saw some stats. I don't know if you have those handy, but I think he had 2 drops, and
he only has 2 drops all season on 55 targets. That's 3.6%. That's phenomenal. And he only had 4 drops last year. He's a really good player. I got another stat for you. When targeted this year, quarterback rating of 120.
Wow.
118 last year. He can. He's so underutilized. If they had a quarterback, if he played with Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers, he would probably score 15 touchdowns a year and have 1,500 receiving yards. But he's on this team like battling for targets with the running back, who's good too. Yeah. But it was interesting in the first half to see Cooper Kupp go crazy and Brandon Aiyuk like not get the ball. It's like, hey, you wonder why you're losing. And then in the second half, they come out and get him the ball. That was good.
Like they should have been doing that all year. It took them a while. What was it, game 3 or 4 before they actually really started targeting him enough? Aiyuk is. I think he's really underrated, underutilized. They could get him even more targets. I have a question for you, Grant. Something I've been thinking about, and I like to ask questions that maybe aren't as positive for the 49er fan base. Do you think with CMC now and with Brandon Aiyuk, when you look back on the contract they gave Deebo, do you feel the same about that contract? Do you think it was good? Do you think it was
the Deebo contract? The Deebo contract?
Yeah.
No. And I've pushed for it, but I'm starting to think like the Niners have such a bad record keeping players healthy that they probably shouldn't bet on their ability to keep players healthy deep into their second contracts, which is one reason I'm still skeptical of the Christian McCaffrey trade, even though he had a great game yesterday. Look at Deebo now. You paid him because of his best year. You paid him because of his best year. Say with Eric Armstead. Not that he didn't have good years before then, but it was all based on his best year, and you projected that he could keep it going when so far he hasn't. And they haven't been able to keep him healthy. So you look at Brandon Aiyuk, he's actually been the more consistent player. He hasn't had the highs of Deebo, but he missed 4 games his rookie year. He missed no games last year. He's missed no games this year. He's in great shape. He goes to every practice. He's a really good pro. He doesn't drop the ball. I mean, frankly, he's the kind of guy, if you had to give a second contract out, you feel good about it with him, at least so far. You don't have to do it yet. But again, you can wait with Aiyuk. I mean, so far, this is the kind of guy that you'd like to keep long-term and probably won't be able to because you've given out all these contracts already, and you don't even use them enough as is. How can you justify it?
Yeah, I mean, literally, who's the number one receiver on this team? Number one wide receiver on this team? It's Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
But Deebo's getting paid the number one wide receiver money. And I like Deebo, man. And obviously his yards after the catch, when he gets the ball in his hands, he's amazing. But if we're being honest, he drops the ball a lot. And he's not the best target. And he's not the fastest guy on the team. Brandon Aiyuk's the number one wide receiver on this team. And so I'm hoping that they can keep him long term, especially if Trey's the guy next year. I think Aiyuk's a better receiver for Trey. So.
I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how Kyle divvies up the targets when all the weapons are healthy because there's a lot of mouths to feed. There's a lot of egos in this offense. Aiyuk hasn't gotten paid yet. He needs his targets, and frankly, he deserves them. He's been here all year, and he's having tremendous success. You just got Christian McCaffrey, who got 8 catches in this last game. Deebo makes a ton of money and expects a lot of targets. Kittle makes a ton of money and expects a lot of targets. It's a run-first team. They just threw 25 times. That's it in this last game, and that's how they win. So it's going to be really interesting. The last 2 games before this, Aiyuk got 11 targets each, and they lost, which is so weird. Like, the more they give the ball to Aiyuk, the less their chances of winning because it's not his fault. It's just he does his best work downfield. Intermediate outside, deep middle, chunk plays. The quarterback isn't designed to get on the ball there. The offensive line isn't designed to block that long. And the head coach has no desire to really call those plays. So, he's great, but if you force it to him on this team, you get out of your identity. So it's a catch-22. It's too bad. Maybe Brandon should go somewhere else. I feel bad for you, Brandon. It kind of feels like when Stephon Diggs was on the Vikings, kind of like playing his position but being held back, and then just he left. Got to go.
What scares me though about getting rid of Brandon Aiyuk is now who's your real receiver? Deebo's limited what he can do as a receiver. Again, I love him. He's awesome. Yards after catch, he's the guy. But he's not a pure wide receiver that's catching the hard passes. And then you got Juwan Jennings, who's a possession receiver. So you really don't have a number one. If you get rid of Brandon Aiyuk, you don't have a number one wide receiver. They can't do that.
Yeah, if you get rid of him, all they have is like yak specialists. And the thing that's cool about Aiyuk is he's good after the catch too.
Yeah,
he's good at everything.
Yeah.
What's funny is Kurt Warner really went after him this week. Really singled him out and it made good points. Like, look, this is bad route running. This is sloppy route running. This is not a good dig route. You got to get the inside release. This was not a good slant. You got to get upfield more. Well, you see how he responded. That's the way a really good athlete responds. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Watch me kick ass this week.
Yeah, and who's really at fault for that? Is it Aiyuk or is it his coaches?
Well, both.
Yeah.
Both. But they all got to own it, and look at how he responded.
Yeah.
Like 2 days later. It was nice.
Yeah. I'm a big Aiyuk guy, man. I really think the Niners need him moving forward, particularly if Trey Lance is the guy next year. I think it's a better matchup than Deebo is with Trey Lance.
Yeah. Bunless Hot Dog says, why was Kyle running McCaffrey so late in the game after Kittle TD? I was literally yelling at my screen. Kyle's usage of his players is bad. Yeah, I tweeted about it. I didn't tweet a lot in this game, but I did tweet about that. And to me, it felt like Kyle was really trying to make a statement, not just to his fan base and the NFL, but to Sean McVay. Like, because I bet you Sean McVay was whispering around the league, oh, Kyle overpaid. I like McCaffrey too, but for that, I bet. Not that I know, but I'm just guessing, that's how coaches are. They always privately poo-poo each other. So if Kyle was feeling insecure about how much he gave up and McVay was thinking, I was in it to a point, Kyle was like, well, this is what you could have had, buddy. And I think he kind of wanted to put it in McVay's face. It wasn't enough to beat the Rams. McCaffrey had to have the hat trick. He had to go for 180 and 3 touchdowns in his face. And like when he had those, they had a throwaway drive at the end, 3 runs and a punt, and all 3 runs all 3 runs went to McCaffrey, it was like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I mean, if I had something to really complain about in that game about Shanahan, it was he does it in all game. He does. It was that. It was like using Christian McCaffrey when the game's over, running him. And McVay did it with Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp.
That's what I wanted to say. He did it, and Kupp got hurt.
Yeah, it's just really dumb. Like, imagine if we lost CMC in one of those rushes at the end of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, because look, McCaffrey, we're going to talk about him in a second, but he just showed what he can do. Now you got to keep him healthy and out there like the Niners did with Frank Gore. That's the new job. And the Niners haven't shown they can do that with any running back since Kyle Shanahan's gotten here. So, Kyle, don't do stuff like that. No more. Do you need – if it's the NFC Championship game, you could give Christian McCaffrey 27 touches. Otherwise, don't do that.
Yeah, that was my other complaint. Not only so late in the game, but also just how many touches he got in general. Like, spread the ball around, dude. Like, I mean, it worked.
Jeff Wilson Jr. had 7 yards of carry the week before. Jeff Wilson Jr. Now he can't get more than 5 touches?
Those are my 2 complaints coming out of that game with Kyle. It's just like, why reduce the risk and – spread the ball around. And Jawan Jennings and Deebo were out. Juszczyk was out. So maybe that's something to do with it. But moving forward, I hope we're not seeing 27 touches a game for CMC. I think that would be disastrous.
Yeah. You've seen him. He's not built for that. He wasn't built for that. And he's small. He's smaller than Frank Gore. Tantara says, still hate Jimmy. Bet him over 235.5 yards, had 235. Yeah. Sorry. You shouldn't have bet him. What was that? Giovanni Miller says, Grant, what is quality control? Do the Niners pay you? No. The quality control is a real thing. There's like up and coming coaches, sort of. And I don't know what they don't get paid very much. They work very hard. It's like a lot of probably inputting stuff in Excel and maybe watching film and just data collection and learning. For me, it's a way of life. That's the way I approach it. And I figure if, anyone could help the 49ers if they have a platform and good ideas. So I try to do it pro bono, although I feel like I've done such a good job, they owe me at least $3 million. So we're negotiating in the sense that I've put out a price and they haven't responded yet.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Now that Jimmy Garoppolo publicly acknowledged my contributions, I think it's only fair.
Yeah.
Don Yee, if you want to represent me as well, that's fine. Seabass Johnson says, if Ray extended his arms and caught the ball, it would be the throw of the day, and ESPN nerds would be all in on Jimmy. Yes, but that would be because Ray made a great play. The throw was late and underthrown. Not to nitpick Jimmy, but yeah, he could have made that easier.
Yeah, that's definitely not on Ray. It was short and late. So, I mean, he throws it.
Also, Kyle needs to stop calling deep shots for Ray. Stop.
Yeah. Danny Gray got 5. He was in for 5 plays last game.
Nah, forget Danny Gray. Forget Ray. The deep threat on this team is Ross Dwelley. End of story. No one expects the guy running a 5 flat to cruise past you, but he does it.
Even on that pass, if I'm being honest, on that pass, Dwelley's super slow, and they caught up with him quick. But if you lead him a little bit, that's at least 10, 15 more yards.
Yeah, he really does rumble. Zay Torres says, after rewatching the game, I think CMC helps Jimmy Garoppolo best by extending drives. He's a reliable check down that can go make a play. Jimmy Garoppolo and offense will have more opportunities to score TDs. Certainly against the Rams, who cannot tackle anything. But yeah, he's a hell of a player. They just got to beat a good team and keep him healthy. Let's get back to we're going to finish the comments in a bit. Speaking of Christian McCaffrey, has your opinion of the No. Yeah, let's do it. We'll do Kyle next. Has your opinion of the Christian McCaffrey trade changed based on his monster performance against the Rams?
Well, first let me say when I first heard rumors about that possibly Christian McCaffrey is available, I thought they were going to ask, because I heard reports, I saw red reports that they were asking for multiple firsts. And I said, no, don't do that. If he played like he did yesterday, he might be, he might be worth multiple firsts. But immediately after the trade, I was kind of like, okay, I'm a little excited about this. The key is, can he stay healthy? And so has my opinion changed? Honestly, I've watched McCaffrey highlights, or when the 49ers played the Panthers, but I've never really watched McCaffrey in full game like I watched yesterday. and he's better than I thought he was, man. Like he's got really good hands, and maybe I'm just stupid. I'm sure everybody knew how good he was. I thought he was good. I know he's like Pro Bowl caliber player, but I didn't realize how good he
That
was.
touchdown catch was crazy. I can't remember the last time I saw a running back go full extension and jump that high to catch a touchdown pass in the end zone. That was nice.
Yeah, and just even like the easy ones, there's just no drops. Like he's got hands, man. He's like his dad in that regard. So I'm really impressed with McCaffrey. If he can stay healthy, I think it was a great trade. And that's the thing about the 49ers. When you look at the draft picks they gave up, what are the odds that they landed anybody halfway as decent as Christian McCaffrey with those 4 draft picks based on how they draft? Especially if they're going after running back. Those could have all been wasted picks. So
yeah,
I don't know. If he stays healthy, I think it was a great trade. But that's the big if.
Yeah, it's interesting. I looked at it differently. I when they traded for him and I was down on it, I wasn't thinking like, is McCaffrey even that good? That's not the way I looked at it. He is that good. For sure. I mean, he was the only player on a Panthers team. He's the only weapon on that team for a long time and still produced and got hurt because he was, for a lot of reasons, but he got hurt as a product of being the focal point of so much defensive attention. So I felt like he was good. So it's so expensive at a position that's not necessarily a premium position and is violent and gets hurt a lot. So he's going to tantalize you with these great games, but then will he be there for 17 games this season? And if he's not, think about what's on the bench, all those picks, all that money. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden it's like, if it goes that road, it's really detrimental to the team. Like D Ford, it's like you're not just any player who's not out there. You're like half the draft and a lot of 8% of the cap. And it's like, well, what were we thinking? You're a running back. Running backs get hurt. We don't keep. So that's all that stuff. But I can't just totally flip my position after one game against the Rams because my position was never that McCaffrey isn't as good as people say he is. No, he really is. And it's fun to watch him. I never got to watch Roger Craig. That was before my time. I can't compare him. I know Roger Craig's a lot bigger. But still, it's fun to watch a running back who can catch passes like that. There's not that many of them.
Yeah, no, he's exciting to watch. And, I think this is going to be up to Kyle Shanahan. And it's yet to be determined if it was a good trade. But I feel like it is at this point. But it's really up to Kyle Shanahan. Just like you said, he got injured a lot because he was the Panthers' entire offense. In this game against the Rams, Kyle Shanahan made him the entire offense. So it's going to be key that he, calls the right plays and the right amount of plays for Christian McCaffrey. I feel like if you're running up the gut, you could probably use a Jeff Wilson or Elijah Mitchell or somebody like that as opposed to Christian McCaffrey every time. So hopefully that's what happens.
Agree. Jonathan Chavez says, Kyle be showing Grant vids for practice. Love it.
Before practice. Yeah, that's what we need to do, guys.
That's funny. I'd love to know. I don't think Kyle would have to put it in front of him. I feel like some of them just might want to know what people are saying. I don't know. Neil says, I've noticed that here on out, they don't travel much. That's true. I noticed it too because I'll be making these trips. Yeah. Mexico City, which is kind of it's not that far, really. Although they're going to be staying in Colorado Springs all week to adjust to the altitude. Last time they did that, it didn't work so well, but we'll see. Colorado Springs might be a little bit more entertaining than West Virginia. I've never been.
Are you going to Mexico City?
Yeah, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to Colorado Springs. I might just go straight to Mexico City.
Yeah.
Like, why would I go to Colorado Springs so I could – I mean, I'll miss a couple press conferences, but I could just go to Mexico City for like 5 nights. Might be fun. I haven't decided.
The schedule is actually the remaining schedule is not that tough, especially travel is not that tough. But my concern is because of that, when they get to the playoffs and they start playing really, really good teams, are they going to be prepared for that caliber?
When they get to the playoffs? Oh, wow.
Assuming they get to the playoffs. I think they will.
Oh, wow. I'm with you. Andrew says, fellow Bruin here. What do you think Kyle will change during the bye week? Our offense minus against the Rams stinks. It's true, but he's got this momentum now, and he just made a statement with Christian McCaffrey. I wonder where he goes from here. Is it just this is the offense now? Like I'm just going to use Christian McCaffrey with no conscience and people can't tell me no? I get to do whatever I want? Or are they going to integrate all these ingredients into a recipe that is balanced?
he's got a lot of tools in his toolbox, man, and I'm hoping he uses all of them and keeps it balanced. Because if it's 27 touches per game, that scares me a little bit, and it becomes more predictable. Then you're the Rams and Cooper Kupp. That's basically what you're doing.
Mike says BA in the slot, chef's kiss, tremendous. I was suggesting that earlier, but yeah, absolutely. Get him some better matchups. Feature him in the passing game. He's so dependable, really good. Even though Kurt Warner has some constructive criticism for him, really for Leonard Hankerson. Offensive lineman trade Mitchell or Jawan. I don't think you're going to get a quality offensive lineman for a banged up running back at this point.
I think you need Jawan too, and I think you need Mitchell. Yeah, I think we're stuck with what we got unless there's somebody off the bench that can come in for.
I would put Brunskill at right tackle. I think he's better than McGlinchey.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. If he has another game like this, I mean, at some point Kyle's going to have to. Is McGlinchey just hobbled? Is he injured? Is that part of this? Is that what's going on?
I don't know. He's on the field. Either he's good enough to be on the field or he's not. Either he gives the Niners the best chance to win a right tackle or he doesn't. I say put Brunskill out there. Whatever the excuse is, put Brunskill out there.
Yeah.
And it feels like Kyle is so ruthless with every position, but McGlinchey gets 11 million chances. Why? Because Kyle wanted to draft him? What am I not understanding here? I mean, Kyle wanted to draft a bunch of running backs too, and then he gives up on him. But McGlinchey we need to see a little bit more from Mike. He's not as bad as people say. If you take away those 2 sacks he gives up every week, he's great.
I mean, he's kind of like Jimmy, man. We know what he is at this point. We've had him for a long time. He's kind of like a C plus lineman. Sometimes he does okay, and then sometimes he does really bad. And so I don't think there's any surprises with McGlinchey at this point. It isn't Burford and who's trading snaps with Burford right now? Is it Brunskill?
Yeah. It's like instead of having a right guard rotation, why don't you just play both of them and sit Mike McGlinchey?
And Burford played some tackle in college as well. So, I mean, you could look at that as an option, right?
Absolutely. All right, next topic. Next question. Matthew Sanders says Deebo gets too many targets this year. Productivity isn't there. The offense ran better without him because he's not the same as last year. That's an interesting thing. Let's look at the numbers. So when he's targeted this year, oh my God. I got a stat for I didn't even notice this. When he's targeted this year, the quarterback rating for the Niners is 70. 70. Why? Because they've been picked off 3 times when they've been throwing to Deebo, and he's only caught what's his catch percentage? His drop percentage is 13, which is a career high, and his catch percentage is 59, which is a career low. Only 2 receiving touchdowns, and then as a rusher, he's averaging 5.8 yards per carry, but with Jimmy on the field, he's averaging like 3 yards a carry. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. What Matthew says here is fair. The Niners we're forcing the ball to Deebo as if he were last year Deebo when he's this year Deebo. And he needs to take a back seat because Aiyuk and Christian McCaffrey might be better than him right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's possible maybe he breaks out later on in the season, but I'm wondering if there's any buyer's remorse on Deebo.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the worst investment was Deebo, not McCaffrey. I have no idea. We'll have to see who's hurt now? Not McCaffrey. Deebo.
Well, yeah, I mean, McCaffrey's making 600 this year and then 12 next year. And what's Deebo making? 25? So based on production, I mean, it's not even a debate based on production.
What's funny is what the Niners can do is they can show this game to Deebo and be like, look, man, we just scored 31 points without you. You need to fit in with us now. And you got to accept whatever role we're going to give you. Because I'm sure he's not a bad player, but they were overusing him, forcing him the ball when people like Aiyuk and McCaffrey seem to be the guys in the best shape and condition on the offense right now. Those 2.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm just an unbiased observer, I'm not getting rid of Aiyuk. I'm getting rid of Deebo before Aiyuk and CMC.
Too late. That's the thing with the Niners, man. They gave out these contracts, and all of a sudden, a player goes from the biggest bargain in the league, Deebo and Kittle, to being like, I would have taken him last year. This year, I don't know.
And that's why I always say, fans don't like it, but I always say, avoid giving people money until you absolutely
have to. The Niners
right?
are always so like, hey, we want to take care of you. We're family. No, you're not a family. You're not a family.
It's
Your
a
business. Yeah. Callie Tremor says, sample size too small to say Super Bowl contender. Reevaluate after the Bucs game and go from there. Next topic. Not too early to say Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Halloween, though. It literally is Halloween. I should have said that.
Yeah. Happy Halloween, guys.
Yeah. Matthew Sanders says, before we trade BA, can we give him a full year with Trey Lance? Hey, we're not trying to trade BA. We're trying to keep him. In fact, we're trying to trade Deebo and Kittle. Sean. Front office can pick up BA fifth-year option, then franchise tag him, then pay him. And that's exactly what you just said. Like, even with BA, as much as we like him, make him prove it. Yep. I mean, he's already gotten like a $15 million signing bonus. He's not hurt. Like, make him prove it before you give him a second contract, because not many of the Niners' second contracts have panned out. Maybe 15% of them the last 5 years.
That goes with everybody. If I'm a GM, if you're in contract, you're in contract, and we're going to wait until the end of that time until I absolutely have to pay you, and then I'll decide if I really want to or not.
It's a violent sport. It seems like human nature takes away a little bit of your desire to whatever it is. It seems like before you get the bag, after they get the bag, there's a difference. And there's freaking turf fields, which is disgusting. It doesn't feel like careers are getting longer, is what I'm trying to say. Bigger, faster, stronger, shorter training periods, turf fields. You really going to bank on that guy having a career until his 30s? You really going to do that? Or are you going to dip back into the draft? I don't know.
Yeah. And from a player's perspective, get your money, man. Good for you. But if I'm the GM, I got the whole different mentality. Yeah.
Keith Murphy says, good thing is we have 2 more years of Aiyuk. Absolutely. Absolutely. Brandon, thank you. Keith Murphy, I'm pretty confident at some point we may have to choose between Deebo and Aiyuk. I'm leaning towards Aiyuk to keep. Thoughts. Yeah, these are from like 15 minutes ago. Yes, we're thinking the same thing. I mean, Deebo Samuel, as great as he was last year, he also had concerns. Bosa has concerns. But Deebo's concerns were he's a little overweight sometimes. Sometimes he can push it 5, 10. He's like, he was in the same draft as DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Those guys are all in the same tier. But you never question AJ Brown or DK Metcalf's fitness. Those guys are the 2 most cut-up wide receivers in the league. Deebo's the dude with T-shirt on in the shallow end of the pool. Just saying. Like Deebo. It's like you're too good to be the guy who's got like a little extra gristle. Like 5 pounds too much. Like, and that's him. That's him. And I wonder what. Yeah, I'm just saying. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's a bad look at 26. He's too good for this.
That's quality control. I hope Deebo's watching today.
I'm not trying to shame him. I'm just trying to
motivation.
Yeah. He's like, it's just like in Mean Girls. He just needs to lose 5 pounds. It's just 5 pounds. That's it. Lucas says we need to get rid of Mike M and Jimmy G next year. What are your thoughts on Jennings? Kyle needs to realize that he needs to split touches with running backs. Please get rid of Mike McGlinchey yesterday. Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think he wants to be here either. Jennings is cool. I mean, he's like making $400,000 a year. He's a good player.
Yeah, Jennings. Good. He is what he is. He's the
dirty work type player,
receiver. Yeah,
gonna get hurt. Plays hard. Don't want to pay him a ton, but good player.
Yeah.
Bunless hot dog. He's like Kendrick Bourne, and the Patriots paid for Kendrick Bourne. Mistake. They already regret it, and the Niners are like, yeah, we just got the next Kendrick Bourne, except he's probably better than Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, I like Juwan Jennings, but I don't think he's irreplaceable. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Tay Martin. There's something about that guy I'd like to see a year or 2 down the line, see what he can become.
House of Jello says,
he might replace him.
All right. Yeah, they're very similar like athletes in terms of how they measure up. House of Jello says, yeah, McCaffrey had a receiving TD, running TD, throwing TD, which is cool and all until he gets hurt. He also had a fumble, and Ray McCloud recovered. That was one of the plays of the game. I'm not trying to crush McCaffrey because he made up for it with all the plays he made, but that was a huge play that Ray made, jumping on that fumble. He gets credit. He had a good game, except for the other thing.
I mean, if I'm being honest, Ray was just kind of sitting there and just fell in his lap. So
well, but he got lucky. He got lucky, but the whole thing was very lucky. Zach says Kyle was playing with the Rams and their high-priced defense like a cat dragging cheese in front of a mouse. Give him an extension now. Wow.
Kyle was playing with the Rams. What? Give him an extension.
Zachary.
Come on,
Zachary. Come on, man. Come on, man.
What?
I appreciate you, but come on, dog. You can't be serious, man. He's done this to the Rams before.
He's joking. He's got to be joking.
Gotta be. Yeah, I think he's joking. I think I didn't pick up on the sarcasm there. Niner Matt says, could you guys see the Niners potentially trying to move Jimmy Ward before the deadline tomorrow? He's unhappy being used in the slot, and he is a free agent after this year. I don't think the Niners are going to downgrade at a position to make Jimmy Ward happy. I think you heard how D'Amico Ryans talked about it. I think their attitude is we're going to use him the way we want to use him, and that's just the way it is. I think that's the way it's going to happen.
And he's a captain. He's been here longer than any player on the team, I'm pretty sure, right? And that would be very demoralizing for the locker room if they traded Jimmy Ward.
And just because he's made it pretty clear that he'd rather play safety than nickel, it doesn't mean he's not going to play nickel. It doesn't mean he's going to go out there and sandbag us. That's not what's happening. Was there something on television that showed him being upset that I missed? Or is it just what he said in the locker room?
I think it's just what he said in the locker room. I think fans are upset.
Forget it.
Yeah, I mean, Gibson's not playing bad, so I understand the hesitancy, but, I don't know. That whole thing's kind of confusing for me. Because I was thinking about that the whole time as I was watching Gibson. I'm like, this dude's doing pretty good, so what are you going to do when Ward gets back? If you move Gibson to the bench, that's a quality player on the bench. So I think they're just trying to play their best players. I don't know.
Kalba says that the Broncos are shopping Chubb. Do you think they'd listen to offers for DJ Jones? They just signed DJ Jones. I doubt Armstead or Kinlaw will return this year. His salary for this year is league minimum. No. I don't think they would trade DJ Jones 2 months after playing for the first time.
Shopping Chubb, listen to offers for DJ Jones. No.
I don't think so. Sorry, man. I don't think so. Brandon Pinn says you need to spot what?
Stop shooting on pros' names.
You wonder why so many chats and players poop on your name. Watch you, but I'm not a fan. Here's 5. Okay. Okay, thanks. I'll definitely take your advice for that one. Appreciate you. Keneal says, some talk shows were talking about bringing OBJ on, but I doubt it happens. Think Kyle's very happy with Juwan as wide receiver 3. Yeah, let's get another guy in here who has an ego who needs like 7 targets a game. I think that'd be perfect for this team.
Yeah, they have enough weapons, I think.
Yeah, they don't have enough targets and balls to go around. This is a run-first team.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah. Flav says, heard after that they're renaming SoFi to Jimmy G Stadium. Guy was dropping dimes all over the place. Thank God he's here, right, fellas? Oh my God, dude. Can he be someone other than the Panthers and the Rams before we do this, Flav, today? Please. Do we have to? I mean, Andy Dalton won yesterday too, okay? Can we stop? Flav.
Thank God I think I'd rather have Geno Smith here, Flav.
Keith Murphy says, congrats to Deebo for getting his money, but that 2021 year he had won't be duplicated, and he's not a great receiver. He'll never get that big a payday again. Yeah. And I bet you the Niners already regret it. C. Turley says, I missed your reply because my flight Wi-Fi sucked. Touchdown in SMF. I am SMH at McSack. He needs to be benched, doesn't he? Yeah, we would say put Brunskill at right tackle. He's played lots of games at tackle for the 49ers. Did it in 2019. They were pretty good. Niner Matt says, I completely agree. Just money is going to get tight soon with all these players under contract, but maybe his injury history will lower the price. Deebo?
Is he talking about McGlinchey?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Too late to lower the price for Deebo. So, I don't know.
I'll go back and figure it out. We'll go back and figure it out. But first, I want to ask, has your opinion of Kyle Shanahan changed after this latest undressing of Sean McVay?
So I said Kyle Shanahan, I ranked him I think I was being too generous. I ranked him a B+ coach. I think he's probably a B coach. Has my opinion changed? I think he's probably a B. I said B+. He's probably a B coach. No, it hasn't changed from beating the Rams for the 8th time. He always beats the Rams. Nothing has changed with that. I want to see Kyle Shanahan spread the ball around a little bit more. And I want to see Kyle Shanahan not risk injury with his players late in the game. And so one game is not going to change my opinion of Kyle Shanahan. What's going to change my opinion of Kyle Shanahan is when he goes above, starts winning a lot of games, goes above 500, develops a high-powered offense, shows us that he can win the big game, doesn't give up 10-point leads in the playoffs or in a Super Bowl. Those are what's going to really change my opinion of Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, those are good points. Also, last week, I was talking a lot about the assistant coaching staff, and I was making the point, like, the reason this offense can't be saved by Christian McCaffrey, and the problems are bigger than personnel, is that, the chief game planner is gone and Mike McDaniel, and a lot of these position coaches are really struggling. So when they come against a team they don't know that well, their game plan, their adjustments are not good, like Atlanta, like Chicago, like Denver. And so in this last game against the Rams, the Niners know how to beat the Rams. They do. Mm-hmm. And all they had to do was like Xerox previous game plans. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but that Christian McCaffrey touchdown pass, I mean, they ran the same play with Deebo Samuel week 18, and it worked then too.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rams still haven't adjusted, and that was less than a year ago. So I think the Niners are really smart. Like, let's do a lot of the stuff against the Rams that have been working the last 3 years. I mean, that's exactly what you should do because the Rams haven't proven that they can stop any of it. But now they're going to have to face the Chargers in a couple of weeks. They got 2 weeks to freaking prepare for this. Brian Greasy, all these 2 weeks to prepare for the Chargers. You don't know much about the Chargers. Can you get this done? Because they got to. If they're gonna have to go through Philly and Buffalo and all these teams to win a Super Bowl. Like, you don't know these teams. Can you actually put together a good plan without Mike McDaniel against teams that you haven't? Because they could just go back and look at the Mike McDaniel notes from last year, right? They could do that, but you can't copy his work now on the Chargers. So I'm curious. That's my question with Kyle. What about when you and D'Amico too? What about when you go up against a team you don't know well? Because we've seen that so far this year.
And if you think Kyle Shanahan's an A+ coach, if you think he's a genius, just open your mind a little bit. I'm just asking, go watch the Kurt Warner breakdown of Kyle Shanahan's offense. That should at least open your mind somewhat. If you go into it open-minded, you'll see, like for instance, I posted on Twitter, I called it the 5-yard Hail Mary, where Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception from the 5-yard line, looked like a Hail Mary pass. And then below that, I wrote, I don't like the play call or something like that. I didn't like the play call. And everyone's like, you're an idiot, Ryan. Jeff Wilson Jr. is wide open. But here's the thing.
Yep.
Kyle Shanahan is Jimmy Garoppolo. We know who Jimmy Garoppolo is. The original reads pointed out by Kurt Warner, they weren't really good routes. They weren't really good options. And as soon as they're closed, you can't expect Jimmy Garoppolo to look to the other side of the field when a blitz is coming right on his face. So that his red zone offense has been bad. And that play call, even though it was Jimmy's fault for throwing that interception. He should have took a sack. Kyle Shanahan didn't give him a lot of good options. It's really hard to throw over your line.
That was interesting.
When you get blitz, yeah.
A lot of times, people point that out, like, oh, so-and-so should go here. You can't. What Kurt Warner said that was so interesting is you can't turn away from pressure. You can't. You have to throw toward a free rusher. That was interesting. Man, he's really good. You learn from him. Yeah,
it's almost like Jimmy needs an out on both sides of the field. He needs he needs a short out on both sides of the field. You can't just expect him. Yesterday he had time, so he did a really good job of that. But when the pressure's on, you can't expect Jimmy to look to the other side of the field and hit an easy out.
Yeah, I like what Warner also said about sliding away from the 3 receiver side. That way you could have your hot route on the 3 receiver side. That was hella smart. Yep. I was like, man, this is great. I'm not even a coach, but if I ever become one, this is money. So what Niner Matt was talking about, he was talking about Jimmy Ward. Just money's going to get tight soon with all these players under contract. Maybe his injury history will lower the price. He's not coming back. The Niners are all about comp picks. And to get comp picks, you have to lose more free agents than you sign. So this guy's gone. I like Jimmy Ward. He's gone, and the way they're treating him shows it. I mean, they are costing him money, but I don't even think they're counting on bringing him back.
I think the 49ers know he's gone. I think Jimmy Ward knows he's gone.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why there's some less than great feelings, because it's like, well, we were on the same team for a while, but now it doesn't feel like it, right? Now I got to make business decisions. Now you're making business decisions, all this stuff. Yeah. Little or Stewie says, do you think CMC is going to be a Jimmy fan, or will he be willing to work with Trey and Brandon? Who knows? Who knows?
CMC seems like a really cool dude, man. Like a really professional, not emotional, really level-headed, really smart guy. And I think he's going to work with whoever's here.
Yeah, and let's see how the season ends up.
Yeah.
The Dark Azrael says Mike M doesn't deserve the number 69. Let him go. I just can't take him seriously with that number. It's like, that's like an 8th grade joke. Hilarious. So funny. But it's not as funny as your play.
Oh.
Mike M, I'm sorry. Tommy Huxley says Niners 50, Raiders 15. The Raiders are hilarious. That's a bad team with the coach they should probably fire right now.
Yeah.
We know he is who we thought he was. Niner Nation for Life says Niners remind me of the 80s, 90s teams in the AFC that had good players but almost never won the Super Bowl. Just seems like quarterback play.
Well, your most important players are your most important people on the team is your head coach, especially if he's an offensive coordinator, and your quarterback. And so, to me, those are quarterback's the weakest player on the offense, maybe outside of Mike McGlinchey. And then Kyle Shanahan, I have mixed feelings about. So that's my hesitation too.
Yeah, all right. Has your opinion of Aaron Banks changed?
From last year, definitely. Yeah. We're through what, week 8? And no sacks all year.
Yeah.
And I've been watching him in the run game. He's doing an amazing job.
He moves well. He's the guy that pulls most of the time when they do that. He's pretty good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shoot.
There was one Christian McCaffrey run yesterday where I think it was the one where he got down to the 1 yard line. I think that was Banks pulling around and springing him. Just wanted to say that.
That left guard spot is sewed up for years to come because of Aaron Banks, and it's not really people's fault for doubting him. I don't consider it my fault for doubting Aaron Banks. He didn't see the field last year, so for whatever reason, their plan worked. But I don't know why he couldn't touch the field last year. But he's looking amazing. One of the best linemen on the team this year. Statistically, he's the best.
I want to pump the brakes on him for a second. Only reason is I never liked him in training camp. In those one-on-one drills, he couldn't anchor. And I can't understand how a guy could be so bad in the one-on-ones and so good in 11-on-11. I know they're different sports, essentially. But he's only really started 8 games. He's going to get tested more. And if one guy has success against him, there will be a book on him. People try to replicate it. He's going to have to do this for a little bit longer to prove that he's legit. But so far, so good. He looks really good. And what I want to say is we wrote him off primarily because he didn't play last year.
Yeah.
But I think what we're learning is Kyle doesn't give rookies a chance a lot of the time. Unless he absolutely has to play them, has no choice, he will just go with the vet because they know his system or whatever. And I think that's a problem. Kyle, you need to stop being so dogmatic about not playing rookies because Banks, he might have been one of your better options last year. Talanoa Hufanga didn't get to play last year. Look at him now.
Yeah.
And Trey Lance too. You had some really good players on the bench for no reason in a season where you didn't win the Super Bowl. Maybe you left something in there. Maybe you had more to give. So I think go back to Bill Walsh, Kyle. 1981, they won a Super Bowl with 3 rookies starting in the secondary. It can be done. You don't have to have everyone knowing your super complicated system all the time.
And from a business standpoint, it makes more sense because then you're getting players on rookie contracts. And then instead of paying mediocre vets to do the job that a rookie can do for way cheaper, now you have money to invest in talented free agents, people that can lift your team up. I think you're wasting a lot of money. Look at what happened with Trey Lance, how much time they've wasted on his rookie contract. I don't know. I think he needs to really start trusting. Look at Jordan Mason, can't get the ball. And when we see him, he looks great. So I think that's something that Kyle Shanahan could definitely improve on is giving more looks to these rookies, to these young guys.
They have some problems on the offensive line. You got Jason Poe on the practice squad. He looked great in preseason, great in training camp, can't get a look. And we're thinking, he's just not ready. Or Kyle doesn't play rookies. Aaron Banks, was he not ready or was Kyle stubborn? Was Talanoa Hufanga not ready or was Kyle stubborn? Well, I'm starting to think maybe stubborn. So, yeah. Kyle, you would know better than me, but maybe be a little more open-minded here.
Yeah. What if we see Poe come out next year doing amazing? Then it's another year wasted for him.
So you're telling me that this wasn't available at all last year? This was all being developed in a lab with scientists and test tubes? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of that, was it the In the Club video, 50 Cent with like Dr. Dre and Eminem? Like, oh yeah, this is going to be the perfect gangster rapper right here. Timothy says, if we have that Jimmy G that we had yesterday, no one will beat us, but he needs to make sure he sees the whole field, not just one read. Yeah, I've seen that take. The way I look at it is that version of Jimmy G. That version of Jimmy G manifested itself because the Rams bring it out of him. If he could face the Rams every week, that's what he would look like every week, and the Niners would never lose, and he would be a Hall of Famer. But
yeah, I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the Jimmy G stuff, because I want to see the chart, the spread chart, what passes were actually thrown. I have a feeling most of them are outside and at the line of scrimmage or behind it or close to it.
Minus the Dwelly one.
Yeah, minus the Dwelly one, which was behind Dwelly. He had to pause for it. So, I mean, you know.
What was the better throw, the one to Dwelly or Christian McCaffrey's to Aiyuk?
Christian McCaffrey's to Aiyuk, not even close. What's funny is that there's only been in the last 3 years, there's been 3 touchdowns over 30 yards, and one was McCaffrey, C.J. Beathard, and Trey Lance. Jimmy doesn't have one.
Niner Matt says, exactly, if Ward is gone for sure, shouldn't they try to move him to gain some assets back, either a need or draft capital? Just a thought. No, again, they look at him as helping their compensatory pick formula. So they will get something back, a comp pick. That's the way. I think that's how they're going to look at it.
Plus, you need that depth. I mean, if Gibson goes down, you're screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. Quan de Goat says, Grant, what's up, man? It was good. It was a good win, but everybody needs to calm down. This should have been happening. We just need consistency and to show the same execution from Kyle down to the last 53rd. Man, when it comes to the big games. That's why you to go, Quan. Agree.
Yeah, he's right.
Agree.
Yeah.
And one thing I don't like about the Niners is like, okay, so they're 2 losses in a row. They beat the Rams. Great. And you start hearing like Fred Warner talk and George Kittle talk, like Levi South. Like, would you guys stop beating your chests? You've never won a Super Bowl. You're under 500 in the last 5 years. You just beat the Rams. You're 4-4. Like, stop talking. Just keep your head down and win the Super Bowl. I don't want to hear it. You're not Draymond Green and the Niners and the Warriors. You don't have that championship pedigree. You're the guys that came close and missed the opportunity. I don't like how they talk. Stop.
Yeah, they got a lot to prove. They're still playing below expectations, even with this win.
Straight up. Michael Durant says, just like to say, when Deebo had his contract kerfluffle, I said trade him to the Panthers for CMC and picks. Everybody booed me, but he remembers and has the receipts. I love that. Everyone said I was wrong. I appreciate you, Michael. But CMC is healthy, and Deebo, after getting paid, is out of shape with hammy injury. That's true, man. It's true. It's too bad. But you called it, Michael Durant, apparently. Are you related to Duran? No. It's just one Duran. I feel like Jimmy did improve this year. Quarterback coach matters.
I don't think there's any evidence to say that, sir.
Gene, huh? Before this game, I felt like he was having his worst season as a pro. But it's still early.
I think that's
TBD. But interesting thought. Silly Joke says running CMC 3 times in garbage time was insane and classic Shanahan. No reasoning and totally reckless. Most overrated coach in the NFL. Yeah. But I mean, he just won big. So what are we gonna do? Like criticize him? You can't. It's no fun.
Somebody needs to take him aside. Like John Lynch, pull him aside, man. And like they did it with Bosa. I think it was against the Panthers. The game was over, and they got Bosa, who's dealing with a hammy, still in the game. Like,
doesn't it just show you how Kyle has? It just shows how there's no one who can tell him no. He's not afraid of anyone in the organization. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
That's not good. Everybody needs to be accountable.
You would think like Jed would call him and be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like if Al Davis were the owner or Eddie D and Kyle did that, I'm thinking there would be a meeting the next day. Yeah. The picks I gave up, the money I'm spending, what the hell are you doing? Al Davis would do it. I'm thinking. But Jed, I don't know. Maybe he's only tough with Harbaugh. Huh?
Yeah. Pull your star players out when the game is over, Shanahan. Please.
Yeah, Sean McVay had to learn the hard way. Past the Kittle rolling left was filthy rye guy. Says Flav.
Hey, it was good, Flav. It was a good
it was nice. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. It's a good play.
I'm
really enthusiastic.
People like get mad at me for being negative. I'm negative when the Niners give me a reason to be negative. I'm positive when they give me a reason to be positive. I'm going to call Jimmy when he makes mistakes. I'm going to point him out. When he does good, I'm going to point it out. That's called being fair, man. So, Flav, you're right. That was a great pass.
Roberto Duran is my uncle. Oh, wow. That's tight. Thank you, Michael. My dad covered his fights. Sean O'Leary says, I see rest of the way. Cards win. Saints win. Fish loss. Bucks win. Hawks loss. Washington team win. Raiders win. Cards win. So 10-7. Second in the NFC West. Never as bad as they look in L or as good as they look in a W. 2 wins over the Cardinals. Win over the Saints. Win over the Bucks. Maybe. We'll see. We shall see. But I feel you on that. Never get too high or too low is what he's saying. Need to trade Kinlaw for whatever we can get. I think they missed the boat on that. Hard to trade someone who's on IR. If not impossible. Yeah. Okay, I have another question for you. So it looks like the NFC West is going to come down to the Niners or the Seahawks. Not to write off the Cardinals yet. They're talented too, but it looks like the 2 best teams in the NFC West are the Niners and the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are in first place. They've won 3 in a row, and they've beaten the Chargers. They smoked the Chargers 2 weeks ago, and they just beat the Giants, who are very good. The Niners haven't beaten anyone good except the Seahawks, which is very interesting. So how do you think, which team do you think will win this division? You don't have to answer that question, but how do you think these teams match up, stack up?
Well, the difference, I was looking at them, the real biggest difference is 49ers defense is ranked the 5th best in the NFL. Seahawks defense is ranked the 26th best in the NFL. The 49ers score only 22 points per game. Seahawks score 26 per game. So the Seahawks, their offense as far as total yards, like the running game and passing game, is almost identical. They're both doing about the same offensively from a yard standpoint, but the Seahawks are better at putting the ball in the end zone and scoring. And the 49ers have a much better defense. So I think Seahawks might be a little bit of a fool's gold. One thing you see with them is what's cool for the Seahawks and for the morale of the team is everybody wrote them off. Nobody expected them to be doing good at all. So they're exceeding expectations. So that's a great place to be in from a morale standpoint. Niners are not meeting their expectations. So it's a different mentality. Like Seahawks basically have nothing to lose at this point, right? It's like if we do good, no one expected to us. If we do bad, that's what everyone expected. It's like you can't lose. Where the 49ers have yet to meet expectations, and it's more of a humbling position to be in when you're not playing up to your capabilities yet and you're losing teams like the Bears and the Broncos.
Yeah, the Seahawks are very intriguing. I mean, starting with their offense, they've had DK and Tyler Lockett for a long time, good weapons. They lost Rashad Penny, but Kenneth Walker looks like a really good runner. And Geno Smith looks like a better quarterback than Jimmy, at least now. Better athlete, better arm, better quarterback. Let's talk about Seattle's defense because, yeah, their numbers look bad, but they started off very slow. If you look at the last 3 weeks, they've given up 15 points per game, which is 5th best in the league. And they do have some talent. They have 2 really good corners, Tariq Woolen and Michael Jackson. Tariq Woolen's given up a pass rating of like 44 this year. So what happens with Pete Carroll defense is often they get better as the year goes on because he's a good coach. So like this is a really, really well-coached team. The Niners are more talented than the Seahawks, but they have more talent than I think people realized. I thought they were tanking. Everyone thought they were tanking. And now you look at them and you're like, ooh, actually you're not a bad team. Definitely not a bad team, and they're a well-coached team. So the Niners have to face them in Seattle. That's not easy. And they haven't faced the Rams yet. They get 2 games against the Rams coming up. So it's going to be, I think it's going to come down to the wire between the Niners and the Seahawks. I don't think the Seahawks are going away. I think they've won 3 in a row.
Yeah, they're definitely a hotter team than the 49ers are right now. And
just beat the Giants.
Man, if the Seahawks win the NFC West and the 49ers don't, that just shows you right there. I mean, if Pete Carroll can win the NFC West with that team versus the 49ers losing the NFC West with this team, that's an indictment on Kyle Shanahan, and that has to put him on the hot seat at least for year 7. I've always said that, even if Kyle Shanahan is horrible, they miss the playoffs, they're going to give him that Trey Lance excuse, and he's going to get 1 more year. But if you let the Seahawks win the NFC West and beat you, at least split 1-1, that's an indictment on Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, and he's going to be on a hot seat next year.
Yeah, so it's wide open. They're just one game behind the Seahawks, and they've beaten the Seahawks already. Yeah. But I do think the Seahawks are a better team now than they were then. The defense seems to have figured something out in the last few weeks. They went against the Chargers. They went against the Cardinals and the Giants, 3 teams that are pretty good. So it doesn't mean that they'll beat the Niners, but the Niners have trouble in Seattle, and Seattle has 2 more games against the Rams, a bunch of easy games as well, a very similar schedule.
And so, who has more pressure if you think about it? The 49ers to do what they're supposed to do, what everyone predicted they would do, or the Seahawks who have nothing to lose?
Yeah, and the Niners, they could be better than the Seahawks but still lose the division because they lost to Chicago and Denver and Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone's like, those games don't matter. They absolutely matter. Could matter really.
They absolutely matter. Like, the Seahawks have lost to the Niners and the Saints and Atlanta. That's interesting. But they beat Denver. They beat Detroit. They beat Arizona. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Giants. So they don't have as many embarrassing losses as the Niners, which is why they're taking care of business and in first place. Still, the Niners probably should be able to win this division. Good news. We always thought this was the best division in the NFC. No, it sucks, and the best one's in the East.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they beat the freaking Giants, and they beat who else? They beat? They beat the Giants, and they beat the Chargers. 2 really good teams. I mean,
it
says a lot.
Yep. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup in Seattle Thursday night game. Going to be interesting. And Patio63 says, my dog Grant, been a minute since I caught a live show. Love you, my boy. You're the greatest reporter in the game. Wow, thank you very much. That just got nicer and nicer as it went on. Swan Song says, whatever Jimmy Garoppolo does well, cue Jimmy cycle of death meme. Yeah, I guess he had underdog mentality. We should have seen that, right? He was favored to lose, underdog mentality.
Yeah.
I love that.
What's up,
Swan? Timothy says, Kyle scared to pull players because Lions disaster. I don't know. Maybe. Last year?
Yeah.
Maybe. Sean O'Leary says, one other thing, has it been 2 years in a row Buda Baker has put Kittle on the IR? No dirty hits, not what I'm saying, but dude gets Kittle hurt. Yeah, Buda Baker, they match up, and Buda Baker hits hard. That's a good point. I think you're right. Yeah. Cisco Kid says that CMC TD throw, I bet Trey throws that pass at CMC's feet and ruins that play. JK. Or am I? Also, like I said, CMC is a weapon. Okay, not a running back. True. And I guess that makes the trade more palatable. But he still plays a lot of running back, and that means you got to keep him healthy for the first time for a running back on this team. B. White, thank you. C. Turley. I don't see what you both see. Seattle beating AZ, overrated. New York Giants and the Chargers isn't impressive. Niners blow out Chargers in 2 weeks.
So what's impressive that the 49ers have done?
Thank you. You just wrote off the Niners' entire resume. The most impressive thing the Niners have done this year is beat the Seahawks, who you say aren't good. So I guess we should just totally not write off the Niners, but just forget everything we think we know. Which is what. Anyway, it's going to be interesting. It's a bye week. So we have to talk hypotheticals and really do an autopsy of the team to see what they are, good or bad. Will Ward stay at nickel? Yeah, I think so. Until someone gets hurt. Sorry, Ward. Let's bring him on the show. See how he really feels. You think he'll do it?
Oh, that'd be great. Try it.
All right, everyone. That's the show. Thanks for watching. What you got going on today, Ryan?
We did our morning show this morning. Tomorrow I got Boobie Dixon and Rich Keltz on my morning show. I'm live every morning at 8 a.m. So if you guys want to check that out, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you later. Have a good day.